Adonis Catering looks after a lot of elite athletes. Not just elite, but from ballerinas to super heavyweight professional wrestlers to figure competitors to the country's best soccer players to AFL footballers. There isn't an athlete we can't look after. For me, Adonis Kitchen is allowing us to teach athletes how to cook and fend for themselves. The premise of Adonis Kitchen is to allow them to come to me with their issues and their problems with how they eat, which is such an important part of their day-to-day, and to be selected and to be their best. By accident, this episode has become the carb-loading episode, and I'm sure we're going to do more later on. But Nia wanted to learn how to do pastas, so I've got a bit of a couple of pasta tricks up my sleeve. We're going to make some wholemeal pasta today. We're going to talk about that later. We're going to do a really delicious, fresh, clean beetroot pesto. It's going to be really tasty and fresh and clean and delicious, and it's just an option to athletes who don't want to just eat spaghetti bolognese anymore on the pre-match day on pasta day. So we can load them up with other types of carbs, and we'll go through that a bit later.
I'm Nia Stamatopoulos, and I'm 16 years old, and I'm Junior Matilda in the under-17s, and I recently captained them in some occasions. I'm also the 4th youngest player to have signed and debuted for WLT. I usually start from the night before, so I usually eat something pretty packed with carbs. So I usually go for either pasta or rice meal. I don't cook very often. My parents usually cook for me, but if I have to, I'm good at cooking like easy meals. I haven't really tested myself yet, but I want to learn from my mum and dad. I just wanted to learn like another alternative for pasta, healthier option, using different ingredients to provide me with like different amounts of fuel, like high protein from cheese instead of having to have meat, so having a vegetarian pasta, and then having different vegetables.
We're gonna make pasta. You made pasta from scratch before? Zero pasta. The only pasta you know of is out of a packet. Oh, this is gonna be the best. Excellent. I love it. Once upon a time, I thought pasta came out of a packet too. We're gonna do a wholemeal dough. We're gonna roll orecchiette. We're gonna do, right now in this bowl, we've got 200 grams of plain flour. 200, 200, 200. Why I like to make doughs inside a bowl before we start kneading onto a bench is because it contains the mess. There is mess involved with this, by absolutely no means of the stretch imagination is there not, no. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt in there. And I'm gonna put a swig of olive oil, just because I like my pasta doughs to be a little bit silky. You're not going to notice it per se, but when you roll it later and it's coming off the board, you're going to go, very silky. A little bit. Stop. In the well. Yes. Stop. Okay. Now, as much as it's really wet around my fingers, I'm going to peel all that stuff off in a couple of seconds once it all comes sort of together. If you feel as if it's dry on the outside, which it is, because there's excess of flour, this is what you want all the stuff around your fingers for, okay? Now we're going to roll it on the bench. Have you ever rolled dough? Have you made bread or anything before?
Just KOULOURAKIA.
Just KOULOURAKIA. No, there's no biscuits here. And that's a very different dough because that's more of a short dough. There's a lot more butter.
Yeah.
So when we do doughs like this, you sort of want to knead it against your surface. You'll notice that we've got a marble bench top. Yeah. I just have a bit of a rigid surface here, so I didn't want to do that. But if you've got like your kitchen table or a stainless steel bench top or something at home, just do it on that. And then fold it back in. What's all this heel stuff?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, okay. There's a bench. Okay. I can't manage that. Now, this one. We're going to cut this into smaller, manageable pieces to work with because we're going to roll it out flat with a rolling pin to my left here. Yeah. We're going to do this like this, and we're not going to laminate this at all. We're purely going to cut like squares or diamonds shapes now to the size of the orecchiette that we want to achieve. So if you rolled larger squares, you're going to get larger pasta. The larger the pasta, the longer it takes to cook. We're going to flour the bench a little bit. Keep the flour close by because you're going to keep going back to it. Your little square of dough here. You're going to put a little bit of flour on your little butter board here. Bubs, you watch because you're going to do this as well. Now look at me like that.
This is my thing.
This is your thing. All right. This is where it pays to have good, nice sausage chipolata fingers because on your floured little board here, that's your little orecchiette. You're probably thinking to yourself, what a pain in the ass, I've got to push him against his butterboard thing. Right. Yeah, perfect. Excellent. And you want to do a little flick. It's good to make these things because then you know where it comes from, number one. And number two, it's very a communal thing. Now, your sauce, We're going to do beetroots. We're going to slice the baby beetroots in a second. But all these leaves, they're a little bit drab and depressing, right? Would you agree? A little bit tired?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to throw them out.
Okay.
I'm just going to chop them really fine so no one notices it.
Yeah.
And we're going to saute them later when we do the pasta sauce. Okay. So I've got this beautiful little mandolin here. You can only have to use this one. I just use something small because it's tiny. I'm just going straight onto the plate. I'm going to be really careful with my fingers.
Yeah.
I'm going to dress them with a little bit of apple cider vinegar, just because I want them a little bit acidic, because how we're going to use these later. We're going to do a little bit of almond oil. And season it with flake salt, and then come back to it later. You made pesto before?
I haven't.
Excellent. This pasta's been washed. I'm just going to put the whole bunch in there. I'm going to tear up the whole thing, whole bunch, with a bunch of basil leaves, picked nice. All right. I've got a roasted couple of beetroots in there, with a little bit of raw garlic. I'm going to throw all these herbs in there. I'm going to go into a bit of almonds. Normally you put a bit of parmesan or something. We're not using parmesan in this because the fat content's a little bit too high. Yeah. But we do have smoked ricotta. You had smoked ricotta before? There you go.
Very salty.
Like a spatula. Yeah. Swig of olive oil in there. Sweet. I don't have to put salt in it because the ricotta salata is giving us the salt. Really good paste-like consistency. When you blanch pasta, you want really salty. You don't just need boiling water. You need salted boiling water. We're gonna put look, this is a serious pinch here, right? And we're gonna do 2. Forget about it. Like that's a lot of. I'm gonna guess what 80 grams is, and we're all gonna eat, so whatever. I'm just gonna make sure they're not stuck together when we drop them in. Yeah. Obviously, if they were frozen, this would be a lot easier because they wouldn't be stuck together at all. Oh yeah, that pinched me. That splashed me right in the finger. It's good. These are going to take, from fresh, they should take about probably 3 or 4 minutes. So they're going to cook down pretty quick. It looks like a lot now, but it's going to cook down completely, okay? You can see it's already changed colour because, we covered it in that much flour and polenta so that it doesn't stick. 2-3 of these big tablespoons of beetroot. And then we're going to use some of that pasta water into there just to make it all saucy like. So when you toss your pasta through, it catches everything, because that's all your hard work's already been done, right? That's what Bubs and you did earlier. My naked eye, that's very close. Yes, Bubs is right when they float. That's pretty much a generic pasta rule for something of a shape of that, like a dumpling style or even a ravioli. When it comes up to float, it usually means it's ready. 2 big whopping spoons there, beautifuls. I need a little bit.
Roast the beetroot.
Took about 45 minutes to an hour. I did cut them down because they were massive beets like that one. But we shouldn't have to season it excessively because, one, we've used ricotta salata in the pesto and we've got salty pasta water here. Okay? Right. Excellent. But see how they've gone all purple? How much that pesto has bled into the pasta? Yeah. I said you can easily do this with packet spaghetti if you want. That's not a problem. However, you've got a different pasta here. It's a different characteristic, so how it's going to bite differently. We're going to do a couple of these little beetroots here. Ratatouille. It's a good temperature change as well when you do all these little, these are cold bocconcinis out of the fridge, right? Then you got the hot pasta and it's still, Again, a bit of extra salt, but that's going to melt a little bit into there as well. And it gives you a natural salt instead of using excessive amounts of salt. Again, you're an athlete, you still need sodium in you. You don't need as much.
So when it comes to carb loading for athletes, it's really important for athletes that are doing events or games that last longer than 90 minutes. So say for example an AFL game or a soccer game or a triathlon or an ultra endurance event, carb loading is important. But there is always risks involved with carb loading. So anytime an athlete's going to carb load, they need to practice before the event. In my personal experience with athletes, I've dealt with a range of athletes who are very good with their carb loading routines and some who have no idea. So what's really important to monitor is gastrointestinal issues, because I find with players that have a really massive bowl of spaghetti bolognese or risotto or something the night before a game, some may be eating too much. So it's really important to monitor how much carbs they're having. And carbohydrate loading is all around increasing your carbs, decreasing your fat and decreasing your fibre, and tapering with your training. When it comes to wholemeal pasta, the differences between wholemeal and white pasta, wholemeal's got a lower GI content and a higher fibre content. So what that means is it's going to keep us fuller for a longer period of time, and it helps with our energy levels throughout the day. So I always tell athletes to include wholemeal pasta rather than white pasta, because it helps keep us fuller throughout the day with a higher fibre content.